Today we're going to be doing brakes on this vehicle today. We're going to be doing pad and rotors. You're going to need a few basic tools and then some. But first, let's go ahead and get the vehicle jacked up into the air. I went ahead and put a chalk on the back wheels. Even though the brakes are holding that, we're still going to practice good habits and put something to keep the wheels from moving. Especially because my driveway is on a slope. Go ahead and fit your jack stands underneath. So when you're doing vehicles for the first time, or jacking up a vehicle and putting jack stands, you're going to look for these points right here. They're usually between two indentations, or there's going to be a reinforced part in the hull. It's very correct that you put it in the right spot, because if you don't, and you let the weight down on your jacks, you can actually crush your the frame of your vehicle. Go ahead and put this one in place. So my indentation be right here between these bolts, and we'll go ahead and do the other side. Again, you come up here, look for your reinforced part of your frame. Right here, these two bolts kind of indentate where it goes. Go ahead and line our jack up. Make sure our jack is nice and secure. It's good. Not using Harbor Freight stands. Okay, let's go ahead and let the vehicle down. Alright, let the vehicle down nice and easy. Okay, now we're going to leave the jack a little pump and a half in place. That way, in case the jack stands fall, at least your jack can kind of be a last ditch measure to save you. And again, before we start taking apart parts of the vehicle, let's make sure our jack stands are secure. Alright, so our vehicle isn't going anywhere. If your vehicle starts moving around uncontrollably or, unstably, go ahead and lift your vehicle back up and reposition your jack stands. Now we're going to go ahead and take out the two front wheels. What some people like to do is they'll take their tire and put it underneath the vehicle if they don't have a jack stand. And that's also to protect you, just in case the car decides to fall on you. But I have jack stands, so I'm going to put it away. Alright, now that we've got our wheels off the way, it's very muddy in here. This is what we're going to be replacing, the rotor and the pads which resides inside the caliper. So to get to the pads, let's start with the rotor. To get to the rotors, we're gonna have to remove the brackets that holds the caliper mount to the assembly back here. Alright, once you take this off the way, most of the time your vehicle, especially if you do your brakes for the first time, you're going to have what's called like a retainer screw or a set screw, depends on what they call it, holding pads. So if you find that you're beating your rotor and it's not coming off, you probably have a screw holding it in place. Unless you live up north and your thing's seized on there. Well, I'll talk about that later on. So let's go ahead and get started. Before I get started, to take off the 17mm bolts that holds the caliper and a caliper mounting bracket, one thing you can do to make life easier, so as you can see, the wheels are parallel to the vehicle. What you can do is turn your wheels so that these bolts can face here, and you can have much more room and leverage to break those bolts free. Let's go ahead and do that. Now you can see I have an angle, so I can actually put my impact in there and get a better shot at it. Alright. If you're a Montero owner, the bolts you're going to need is going to be 4, 2 on the caliper and 2 on the mounting bracket itself. Maybe a 17mm. Why keep setting yourself to freaking 4? Alright. These are your caliper sliding pins, okay? This is what the caliper slides on. It's very important that you grease them because they're dry. they'll dry over time because, you know, they're exposed to element stuff. But if these dry up and they seize, what can happen is one can stick, and what happen is the caliper could unevenly apply pressure to the pad. So instead of going like parallel, you might have one doing this or not moving altogether. So always lubricate your sliding pins. Let me take this extension off. It's not good right here. Okay, it's a little bit tough. Okay, it still needs some more. Okay. Alright, so now we got it off. Almost, partly. Now you get the pin out of the way. Alright, you see how it's dry? We're going to clean that up, and then we're going to apply some fresh caliper slide grease to it. Now that we got the caliper free, this is very important. Never ever let your caliper hang by its brake hose. That's a no-no. You can cause damage doing that. What you want to do is you want to support it. I need to change my boot just now. But you see what I'm doing? You want to support this caliper. You don't want to be putting any kind of tension on this wire. Because if you, I call it wire, this hose. Because some of these calipers are pretty heavy, or if you let it drop, you might rip that out or cause a leak. And the last thing you want to have is a leak inside your brake hose. Because that's how you stop. Now we're going to continue on the way. I'm going to move this out of the way because just to illustrate. There we go. Definitely had to order some new rubber pads for my caliper pistons. Now that gets the mounting pad loose. Go ahead and pull that out of the way and set it off to the side. So this is also what holds your brake pads in. See, these had some good life left on them. The others didn't, because like I said, over time that grease was drying up and it's starting to seize. But now, get that out of the way. We're going to replace all the pads and rotors anyway, so now we can access the rotor. Now, I live down south here in Texas, where I don't have to deal with any salt unless you live on the coast or something. It's pretty reasonably dry. Well, I take Houston's pretty humid, but I have to deal with salt or extreme moisture. Things aren't sticking to each other, so I can take my rotor right off. Now we're going to go ahead and put on our new rotor. It fits on there good. That's the next thing I should have mentioned before I started the video. Make certain that whatever part you buy that you're replacing, it fits. Now, the good thing is I don't have to necessarily destroy these parts. So I find that it doesn't fit on, I can put it right back on. But some parts you end up having to destroy, or it's a one-time use thing. You don't want to be stuck with your vehicle down for an undetermined amount of time, especially if you buy your things online or you have only one vehicle and you don't have a means to go and get another part or so. So now we're gonna go ahead and put back on our mounting caliper mounting bracket, that is. Make sure it bites, especially if you like to use an impact. You don't want to be sending your impact in and it doesn't bite, and then you end up stripping out your threads or cross-threading it. they'll be like just like before. If you don't have another vehicle to replace it or the tools to fix that thread, you'll be screwed. So now our caliper mounting bracket is in. We're gonna go ahead and put it back in. Nice and tight. We don't want this coming loose on us. Probably should angle this a little more. But now, so our rotor for the most part is captive in place. Alright, so you remember how I was talking about those caliper slide pins? This is where this grease will come in handy. So this is brake parts lubricant. You can get this at any auto parts store. And basically what it does is use it to lubricate, you know, moving parts. You know, your calipers, pins, your, you know, where your brake pads go. So what we're going to do is go ahead and where the pins will go on the pads, what we'll go ahead and do is where the pads slide, we're going to apply some lubrication. Actually, let me see if it even comes with a new pair of those things. So sometimes in the box it doesn't come with a set of new slide, so usually you should clean it. So I don't have any brake cleaner, but we're gonna go ahead and clean that up, right? We'll wipe the grease off the brakes. A little won't hurt, but don't be needing to grease the whole damn thing. So you be liberal as you want. Like I said, the elements will quickly take its toll on these things. And like I said before, let's go ahead and make sure the pads match each other. They do. I'm going to be using EBC green stuff. They say it's supposed to perform better. Let's see if it does. So what I like to do too is I like to grease up here as well. Do not grease this. This is friction material. It uses friction to stop. Don't grease friction points. Otherwise, you're going to defeat the purpose of braking, which is to stop. Alright. So now we go ahead and grease it up. But before I put these pads on, I'm going to go ahead and clean up that excess mess I made. Like I said earlier, a little won't hurt, you know, it'll get scraped off, but you're not greasing the whole entire surface, okay? Okay. We'll go ahead and put it in place. Sometimes you do a little angle, and there you go. So that's one in. Let's go ahead and do the other side. Add some grease. I'm a little messy with it. Try to get some excess. There we go. You want to be liberal, but don't be very messy with it like me. That's okay. As long, it's better have a little too much grease in the right position than have no grease at all and then have seized brakes. Let's go ahead and put on the other side. Oh my God. Go ahead and come at an angle, and it's nice and in. Now we're going to reinstall the caliper, but now we need to force the caliper back, and I'm going to show you a few tricks how you can do that. Before I force my caliper back, we're going to come up here in the engine bay and we're going to take the cover off of the brake fluid reservoir, because when you push the calipers back, you're going to push back brake fluid and it's going to go back up, and you're going to have a place for the air to escape, okay? Now a lot of people's familiar with the caliper and old brake pad trick, so that is what we're going to be doing today. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your old caliper, not your old caliper, but your old brake pad. You're going to take your old brake pad, you're going to put it up here. Let me make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Yeah, you guys can't see. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your old brake pad, you're going to put it on top of the pistons, then you're going to take your caliper, or your C-clamp, sorry, and then put it on your caliper. Let's go this way. It has a better bite. And what you're going to do is you're going to tighten down. It's a little cumbersome how I'm doing it, but this is the best way I can teach it to you guys. Actually, there's a better way to do that. Let me fix myself. Alright, there we go. So you're going to bite down, and basically what you're doing is you're forcing the caliper back. Nice and easy does it. And you can see it's starting to work its way backwards. Now I'm going to have to get a second caliper in, because since this is a twin caliper, dual caliper, it's best to have two, because the fluid's going to try and force back and push this one up. If you're using two calipers like me, you're gonna have to go, you know, little by little with each of them, because you don't want to do one too much and then the other too much. Just a little more. There you are. So I have two calipers now. So I'm gonna do them both evenly. So the bottom down, now the top down. Or in rather. And what you're basically doing is you're forcing the calipers back, you're resetting them, so now they can accept the new pads, because the old pads are worn down, so it's at that width. The new pads like this. And now you just release it. You can let the pad drop. Like I said, I gotta get me a new seal. I didn't realize how bad this seal is. It's not really a seal, it's just a rubber boot to kind of protect the back of the brake pads from sticking. But nonetheless, I'll replace it on the next video anyway. Alright, now that you reset your caliper pistons, let's go ahead and put them in. But before I do that, you remember the slide pins? I'm going to go ahead and wipe them clean as much as possible. And we're going to apply some fresh grease to them. We're going to put some grease all over this thing. Hey, you can put as much as you want here, even if you want to fill up that boot, so that way it stands a better chance up till your next brake change. So that way it doesn't dry up completely and seize. It's okay to be as liberal as much as you want with them. Let me go ahead and take my caliper down. Let's go ahead and put in position. So nice and easy does it. Sometimes you have a boot. Well, actually they will have a boot. Go ahead and push it back and line up the caliper. And now we're going to take our first caliper pin. We're going to slide in the back. And in it goes. You can hear that grease crackling in there. Now I'll start threading it in. Make sure it bites. There it is. It's in. Same thing with the next pin. Let's go grab and clean it. So I'm going to take my next pin, clean it up really nice. Alright, you see the pin is nice and clean. Go ahead and grease it on up. Once you're satisfied with how much grease it has, or little, go ahead and install it in and reinstall your pin. Go ahead and tighten it in. there you have it. You're well on your way for your first brake job. See, it wasn't so hard. All you need is some basic tools and a little bit of elbow grease and actual grease, and you can save yourself plenty of money doing it yourself. Now I'm going to do all four, the rest of all three wheels, that is, since we've done the first one, and then I'm going to show you what you do once you get all four wheels done, or two, or however much you've done. It's best you replace these in pairs, so that way you know they're evenly wearing and not wearing at different odds and ends of times. So here on out, we're going to go ahead and do the other wheels. Okay, as you can probably see in the slow-mo, I had a bit of problem getting this top one off. This one was very dry. It wouldn't even come out with my own hand strength. I had to use the drill, the impact, to spin it to let it walk itself out. That's why I said it's very important that it's okay to put as much grease and be liberal to it, because when it's dry, it will stick. Now, let me show you this too as well. Remember how I told you how sometimes the pads can wear unevenly? Do you see how this side is thicker than this side? That's the result of that pad seizing. So this was this side, so the top seized and it couldn't push the top at all, but the bottom was still able to go. So as you can see, this pad was, instead of going nice and smooth and parallel, it was going canted like that. Extra grease is your friend. When you're putting back on your wheels, you always want to tighten them down in a star pattern. So when you put on your wheel, the first thing you want to do to get it stay steady, seeing these lug centric, I tighten the first one at the bottom, which kind of pushes against the rotor and holds it in place. Now the bottom is tight. I didn't snug it or torque it all the way down. So now I got the bottom and you go on top. And you're just going into the star pattern. And go here. And then come over here. That's basically what you're doing. You're not tightening it way the heck down. You're not torquing down the cylinder head. Discount auto. So you're not trying to strip your bolts or break the studs off, okay? But you don't want them loose either, because again, if your wheel come off on the highway, you're gonna have a bad day. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and jack up the rear of the vehicle and do the rear brakes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put my wheel check in the front of the vehicle, because even though my vehicle's a 4x4, the front differential is not actuated. So if I were to jack up the vehicle on my inclined driveway, it's gonna roll forward. So go ahead and make sure a truck doesn't roll anywhere. Alright guys, remember how earlier on I said in the video, before you start working, make sure they sent you the right parts? Well, people make mistakes, but it's also more prone when you buy kits too as well. So if you look at these pads, they don't quite match. You see the tang up here, the slider, should be right, it's kind of hard in my hand, it should be right here. You see it doesn't match. Also, the brake pad's a little bit bigger than this one. That's okay. When I look here, I have good brake life on here. But however, before I tear this apart, I'm going to contact EBC Brakes and have them send me the correct pads, because these aren't the right ones. I had a feeling they wouldn't be right, but for the sake of the video and to show you that hey, things happen and no one's perfect, we all make mistakes, but it's what you do after that mistake that makes or breaks the experience. So I'm going to go ahead and put my car back together, but before I end the video, the most important step is we did successfully get the fronts put on, right? So whenever you force back your caliper, you have to pump your brakes, because you now need to take up that slack. It's easy. All you need to do now is you're just going to pump your brakes a few times, and what's it going to do is it's going to take up that slack. So now the next time you go to drive off and you go stop your car will stop. Don't forget to pump your brakes, because if you do your brakes and you drive off and then the first few time to go to stop, you might not stop in time, might hit something. So don't forget that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I apologize I wasn't able to do all 4 wheels, but for the most part, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned, and if you're new to doing brakes and you want to do them yourself, I hope this video was helpful for you too as well. Like, comment, subscribe, leave any messages at the bottom. I'll answer if I see them, and have a good day.